Welcome to this episode of Talk Commerce that I have Kathy Floam-Greenspan. She is the founder and chief strategist for POM Marketing. Kathy, do a much better introduction for yourself. Tell us your day-to-day role and one of your passions.
Okay. Well, I started POM Marketing over 25 years ago. And like you said, I'm the founder and chief strategist, chief cook and bottle washer, really. Me and my team, we work with growing B2B companies, typically companies that have big growth goals, but they're lean in internal resources, which really is kind of a common thread in today's world. So my role, the industries that we're in are cybersecurity, IT services, SaaS, infrastructure, high stakes, big need to be clear in the world of marketing. So my role is to help organizations cut through the noise, get focused, and execute in a way that's going to really move the needle in terms of moving their business forward. So I really feel like in today's world, I've turned into the chief protector of focus in marketing because it is tough out there.
Yeah, good. Chief protector of focus. And how about
Mhm.
passions? What kind of passions do you have outside of marketing?
Well, I live on the water in the Chesapeake Bay, so love boating, love how summer is coming. Even have a dog, a golden doodle named Summer. So just really love life on the water. I'm excited to kind of embrace the season. It's been a long winter.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I have to spend my winters in Hawaii, so we're also on the water,
Oh,
but then I spend my summers in Minnesota. So if anybody knows where Minneapolis is, it's between LA and New York, and it has a lot of water.
okay.
All right. So before we get started, and we're going to talk about the survey that you did and some of the results that you saw, and maybe some things were surprised from the survey. We're
Yep,
going to do the free joke project. I'm going to tell you a joke. You just give me a rating 8 through 13. So here
you
we
got
go.
it.
A man bursts into a doctor's office yelling, "Doctor, doctor, help, I'm shrinking." The doctor looks at him and says, "Relax. You'll just have to be a little patient."
Good one. Cute. I think it was cute. I'll give you a 10.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that. All right. So, just start off with, how did you end in B2B? And 25 years ago, were you still doing B2B marketing?
So yeah, 25 years ago, was working for a small agency. First I worked for a big one, then I worked for a small one, and got real hands-on with, working with, tech companies back then, which is kind of crazy. Mm. And just found that I had this ability to understand complex stuff and put it into English in order to help market it. So, at some point I just decided to go off on my own. I turned into an account manager. So I was out there talking to the clients and hearing about their business challenges and just went off on my own and used this kind of idea of helping people translate what they're doing in a way that would resonate with their target audiences. And lo and behold, Palm was born. And it's gone through lots of different iterations over the years. Kind of where we've landed today is I have this great team that I've worked with for years, and we just are more of a boutique firm where we plug into tech companies that have little resources in house, which, that they'll have like a couple people and big, big goals. And they're looking for capacity and firepower. So that's how they plug into our team to get results.
Yeah, that's great. So you did the survey. Tell us a little bit about what was in the survey, and maybe we can then go into what are some of the things that you've learned from doing the survey.
Yeah. So, it was just with so much change going on in the industry, we thought it would, we saw it and we felt it with all the clients that we were working with. And we thought it would be cool to kind of do a survey to find out what B2B marketers are really thinking and experiencing in today's world. So we did the survey and, it came back with lots of, different interesting findings, but there were some key ones that, kind of made us take note. And so I can kind of get into those types of things if you'd like, the
Yeah,
key
yeah. What
findings.
what what
Okay.
made you take note? That'd be really interesting to hear.
Okay. Some of the things that The first big finding was the resource gap. So we interviewed 100 B2B marketers, all different types of roles. Like I said, like director of marketing, marketing managers, CMOs. It was very interesting. And across the 69% of the people that we interviewed said that expectations are outpacing staffing time or budget. So, it's like there's a lot of pressure on marketers to be marketers today. Yet they don't have all the resources they need in terms of staffing time or budget to get things done. So that was definitely eye-opening, although we witnessed it. But it was across the board. The second is the ROI challenge. 29% of marketers, only 29% of the marketers that we spoke with, that we surveyed, feel confident proving marketing's impact, which, with all the technology that you have today to get analytics and data and reporting, that was kind of surprising to us. And then the third is that, 80% say that AI is impacting strategy, but many don't have a clear plan on how to use it. That I think that really what we saw is a lot of misalignment in terms of, it's not a lack of effort, it's not a lack of talent, it's kind of a lack of clarity around priorities. It's just intense out there in the B2B marketing land. Priorities are shifting, and I would say even weekly priorities are shifting. And I think marketers are really struggling to keep up. That's what we're experiencing. So I feel like, all this data kind of illuminated all this when we did this survey.
Do you think that some of that trying to keep up and maybe missed expectations on ROI could be leadership's thought on AI is that AI is going to deliver everything and anything always,
Right.
and it's going to do it with less people. And when the marketer actually sits down and starts to use it and realizes, hey, ChatGPT is giving me the exact same thing that it's given the other marketing companies that are using ChatGPT, the other million marketing companies that are putting
Right.
in the same thing, that we're not really getting anything different. Then how do you stand out? And then how do you stand out with less resources and less people, right? Is that kind of what one of the things or one of the hypotheses?
Yeah, well, and I think they just keep like, let's do this and let's do that and let's do this. And it's just like keeping things on marketing to get, just think that everything can be done easier and faster. And it's a tool. AI is a tool that you can collaborate with and get ideas and, all that. It's just not yet the end all be all. It can't, plan and run and handle every single aspect of an event for you. It can help. It can put things in spreadsheets. It can do a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, but there is a human aspect of marketing that I believe to date can't be replaced by AI. Maybe you can have less people, but I just see leadership as just, I don't even think they're thinking in the industries that, we work in. I think it's just a demand for more, more, more. I don't even know that they're thinking about AI necessarily. I think they just want more. And that it's like a reaction to how dynamic the environment is now. They're just, we were doing this and you got to stay the course with marketing to really get results. And if you keep changing directions, you can't get results. I don't care how much AI is involved in the equation, So I think that is where the protecting the focus comes into play.
Yeah, I mean, I think protecting the focus sounds like a really great name for a marketing newsletter. And I can speak from experience that I've had leadership teams that are constantly changing direction, then always disappointed in the results because maybe they ran it for 2 weeks or they ran a campaign for a month, and where a campaign maybe should go for a full quarter to start seeing results. And even I think if you go into LinkedIn, they're going to say, just to get the tools to learn what your audience is, you should run it for 2
Exactly.
weeks, right? I think there's so many things that are real that people overlook because, like you said, the hype, and they're excited to get to the next thing.
Yeah, it's like whiplash, and so I try to, it used to be, back in the day, you'd have kind of an end of year planning meeting and you'd set goals for the upcoming year, and you come up with a marketing plan, and you'd put that plan into action. And sure, things would change and you would shift, but it wasn't like today. Now it's like if you could get a quarterly plan in place and implement it, that's a win. That's it's really a win. And that's what I try to do with our clients, is steer them into having a quarterly plan and just staying focused on that plan. And then you want to do a new campaign in the next quarter. Okay, let's get that on the docket and start planning for that. But don't keep changing the focus, because you're not going to be happy with the outcome. I just think that there's this consistency that's needed, and to get results, like you're saying, for many different reasons. That's what's going to happen. I think that everybody's trying to do so many different things right now that everybody needs to take a breath and really think about what the priorities are, and what goals you have, and what the success really looks like, and stay the course, play the longer game with it. It's
Yeah, I'd
hard.
be I'd be interested to learn. Like, I'm a big EOS believer, entrepreneur operating system, and I believe it's a framework that helps you move forward, and it puts you into a quarterly rock, and you have L10 meetings and all kinds of things that what you're talking about sets you up for success, and measuring what you're doing, giving everybody a scorecard. Do you differentiate between your clients who may be using a structured system to manage their business like EOS, or I know that there's a bunch of other systems out there, Bloomreach, compared to the ones that aren't using anything and they're just kind of flying by the seat of their pants?
I mean, I don't want to, every client has their different way of measuring results, in terms of what they report back to leadership, the metrics that they're reporting back to leadership. What we try to impose is, they're using 9 million different tools, and all of them have analytics in them. And it's really hard to create a story with all these different tools. And we work with our clients to get them to feed them into one system, a dashboard system, where everything can live in that system, and we can start interpreting the data for them where marketing is concerned. I personally find it extremely useful in terms of, being able to guide their efforts. But I still, in some ways, I feel like they're still like living in the day. And they're really, it is just like, it's a bit of the Wild West out there. So I just try to, every time there's a shift, and I try to reflect back what the last goals were, and why aren't these important, and where are we going with this now? And sometimes it works and we can stay the course because I'm, holding up the mirror. But like in terms of data, we use the dashboards. They typically use PowerPoints that are generated from data from the dashboard to show to leadership. And that's fine. Whatever works. There's no one system that I haven't seen any common thread in any of the companies that we're working with,
That's
sadly.
interesting. I know that one of the things that you found was that 79% of the marketers agree that AI has significantly impacted them, but there's also like a lot of adoption without a roadmap. Talk a little bit about how that plays into this sort of disconnect with maybe with leadership.
Yeah, I'm still kind of watching and to see how this all plays out. I feel like everybody in the land that we're working in, everybody kind of has their tools of choice that they like, and sometimes it depends on their environment and what they're allowed to use. And then sometimes they just have things that they like. And, right now, I feel like the marketing teams that we're working with are so overwhelmed that they're trying to use it to produce like, PowerPoints for events and things like that, for speaking events and things like that. And they like feel somewhat hopeful about how it can help them, but then they're not really that happy with the outcome of the content that's created. People are using it for ideas and things like that. But I feel like the marketing teams that we're working with are just so underwater that they're just kind of relying on us to figure stuff out. And our team really has kind of our tools that we like and that we use, but we use them with caution, and we still check things out and make sure that they still need to things need to be still kind of sourced to make sure that it's legit. I still have a healthy amount of skepticism with AI. I think that if you just don't, then that's, I think, worrisome, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I the other thing I think that users are now recognizing, well, especially when content is created by AI. So you as a marketer need to be very educated on what content is out there that is generated by AI that's very, call it AI slop, and that
Right.
how are your users going to receive that? It might be, if you're in gated B2B, it might be a little different. Maybe people don't care so much because they just want to get to the product. But I think in actual marketing speak, people recognize now that AI, if not helped along by a human, is going to be pretty generic. What else?
Yes.
One of the I like one of your quotes is these that you said these findings should be a wake up call for the C suite, not just a marketer. What did you mean by that?
I think it's comes back to the protecting the focus. I think that it's we need the C-suite to help with that. And it is tough. And if they're, to really commit to what the objectives are and communicate those, and marketing needs to help feel confident and secure enough to kind of hold them to that, which is not easy, you know. But I do think the C-suite needs to help protect the focus. I think that's critical of knowing what they're looking to achieve, and letting marketing have the enough of a ramp to do so, just enough consistency and time to achieve it, because I just see that as like the number one problem out there in the land. And as far as AI is concerned, just to kind of circle back to that, one of the things that I've done is I took this master class AI, and it's like 13 hours of training, and you get a certificate out of it. And I know there's other things out there, but it's actually really well done. It's in that masterclass, website that they have all these different classes. And it's like I did it, and then I've been kind of using my learnings to guide my team and what I think that they need to be using, the tools that we need to be exploring, how we need to be using them. I think like most people are just like they have no idea really of the much AI can do, and how to use it. And, I mean, it's just so much more than writing an email for you, or, coming up with an idea. It's amazing, but there's so much education that is still needed for people. And I think that's nobody's thinking about that, which is kind of amazing.
Is there anything out of the report that just was like, "Oh, wow, I did not see that coming?"
Like the number one thing that was kind of astounding to me was how this issues that we saw it had nothing to do with title. It didn't matter about company size, and it didn't matter about role. It was a consistent experience. That all, whether you were a director of marketing, marketing manager, or a CMO, people were describing the same tension regardless of company size or title. Not enough resources, challenges proving ROI, needing to figure out AI, but having very little time to do so. Pressure to keep up.
Do you think there's so I've one thing I've heard in the B2B community is that more and more the younger generation, like yourself,
Mhm.
are taking over some of the legacy leadership, and that their expectations of what B2B is completely different than the person who was started 40 years ago or 30 years ago. Do you think that just this switch from dynamics on like millennials now running companies and Gen Xers are now retiring, which I can't believe. But do
Right.
you think that plays into some of these different expectations?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. I think it's so many different things. There's also like just the environment, like with private equity, companies changing ownership, rapidly. That changes focus, and, in terms of focus, vision, goals, everything. I mean, all of that's happening regularly in the B2B environment. So yeah, I think it's whatever, the leadership in the team, and just this dynamic environment of rapid change that is all around us. And it just makes you wonder, I saw the whole .com, that whole thing, and what went on with that. And, I've lived through enough changes in this business environment to just wonder about Don't you feel that way, Brent?
Yes, definitely.
You know? You're
Yep.
just like, "Is this a bubble?" Everybody and their mother is now putting AI on their website. We do a lot of work with government contractors, and, just like it's AI, 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 and it's like, one would think that government contractors need to be careful about how they're using AI. So I just wonder about all of this. Could
Yeah, I
just be a
saw
tool.
an
Mhm.
interesting report from ChatGPT, I think it was, where some of the Accenture data was getting leaked back into because there's so many developers from
Yep.
Accenture using AI to do code that a lot of that stuff was going back and getting back into the because of the volume of that what they're doing was enough to kind of push the needle on that. And you have to be careful when you're sharing it back, especially if you're on a I suppose the older systems were different than they are today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, Kathy, we have a few
So,
minutes left, and geez,
yep.
we've already burned through our 15 minutes and 25 minutes. We could keep talking for the next hour.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
as I do finish off the podcast, I give everybody a chance to do a shameless plug about anything they'd like. What would you like to plug today?
Well, I guess if you have any interest in the survey that we did, we published a report called Marketing Under Pressure, and you can access that at POMAGENCY.com/survey. So you can access the survey. There's also a lot of great tools for marketers in the resource section of our site. And if you're a company with big growth goals but a lean marketing team, we'd love to talk further. So you can hit the contact page on our site at pomomagency.com.
That's awesome, and I will make sure we get all those in the show notes.
Awesome.
Kathy, it's been such a good conversation. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Brent.